The bigger the project, the worse the estimates fail. And unfortunately, is the bigger the project, the more we rely and the more we depend on the estimates technology or practice in order to contain risks or in this case cost overruns. And I just put F-35 project budget overrun. I'm sure that many of you have heard of this particular project. It's now or it was in 2018, it was evaluated already at 1.5 trillion. The Berlin airport is another famous example. It started with an initial budget of 2.4 billion US dollars, and in 2019, the budget had already grown to 8.5 billion, so that's 4 times bigger. There is a solution, however, to the on-time and on-budget problem that we can apply in software today. And we can borrow that from what we already know about telecommunications networks. Telecommunication networks are extremely complex systems that are affected by many things. And we can, however, predict fairly accurately how they perform. There are some surprises, but over the long term, they are quite accurate, right? And this we'll do by looking at throughput. What I'm proposing here is that a software team can be observed through the same lens, the lens of the reliability of throughput. Here's one example. This is one team, items completed per day over several months. And you can clearly see that there are patterns to this variation of delivery, right? So we can basically say that within these two limits, so the upper control limit and lower control limit, we can very much predict what this team is going to complete within a certain range, right? This range here. Some days they will go above that range. Some days they will go below that range. But we can use this range as a prediction tool. This is my proposition number one. Our rate of delivery, when we use Agile, Scrum method as an example, our rate of delivery will be fairly the same over time unless significant changes to a team or a system happen. This is very important, and we need to learn to detect when those changes happen. That's why we have the No Estimates workshop, where we look at data, we practice this in practice, and we understand or start to understand when changes to the system happen, right? Because when changes to the system happen, we can't use these limits here in order to predict what the team is going to deliver anymore. But if there are no significant changes, for example, the team is stable, technology is the same, we're delivering new functionality on an already existing platform, we can use the throughput data for the team, i.e. how many items delivered per unit of time, in order to assess their future delivery. My proposition number two here is that we know at all times how many work items we have in our backlog. Especially if you're using Scrum, you're using a backlog, and you're working on keeping that backlog fairly healthy, right? So the items in the backlog will be understood, and you're regularly working on either writing new items as they come up or clarifying the ones that are there. Now, with these two propositions, so rate of delivery being known and the size of the backlog being known, we can do a very simple projection, which is this is your backlog size, and this is where you are at this point, and you know what your your pessimistic delivery rate is, and then your optimistic delivery rate is actually the other way around. So this is the optimistic delivery rate, and this is the pessimistic delivery rate, right? This is time as time goes by. And now we know more or less where the delivery of all of these backlog items will end, right? There's two dates that we can get from this projection. So knowing how many items we have in the backlog and knowing the rate of progress allows us to continuously track how many sprints or weeks, if you're using Kanban as an example, we have left to deliver the whole backlog or the rest of the backlog. And this is a very powerful tool for us, right? So the optimistic projection comes from the upper control limit of throughput, and the pessimistic comes from the lower control limit of throughput. We have that data. If you just track items, for example, in an issue tracking system like Jira, you will know these rates and you can use that to project into the future.